With us here in the studio, starting off talking about a brief encounter, very brief, apparently.
Yes, indeed.
I've just read
with
here.
Lohan Bagbo. This is an exclusive on the front page of The Independent this morning. Daniel Howden, who's actually, his coverage has been very good for The Independent in Abidjan, but this might be a little bit oversold. He crossed Abidjan, got access to the Gulf Hotel where Bagbo was arrested, got in through a side door, made his way up to the 4th floor to room 470, managed to get through a load of guards, saw Bagbo through the door, and then it was slammed in his face.
Right.
And he was told, what was he told? That Mr. Bagbo was in no condition to receive the media yet. I'm not sure it's worth an exclusive on the front page of The Independent this morning.
Exclusive interview. He obviously had a lot to say about his
Almost
Hawaiian
interview.
shirt. Okay, all right. But there is some more interesting things in Slate Africa.
Yes, indeed. Their coverage has been quite interesting. They speak to Tibourse Kofi. Now, he is an Ivorian journalist and writer who's wondering why intellectuals in Africa supported Bagbo until the very end. Not all of them, but quite a few. He's speaking about renowned intellectuals such as the Cameroonian Celestin Monga. Now, he says if you read their work or listen to them, you think Bagbo is a victim of the West, a man who stood up for the dignity and who defended African dignity indeed. And he concludes, as I see it, the continuing to see the West and whites as responsible for the ills of the continent amounts to saying Africans are big children. The surest way of making Africans appear childish, he said, is to continue to paint yourself as a victim of Western powers. So he's not too much in favour of, I suppose, supporting Bagbo and blaming the West.
Until the very end. All right. Well, look, you just handed me this. Gillian Duffy. I was thinking, I recognise that name, but I have no idea who that is. But you're going to tell us.
Well, I will tell you. This day last year, the British media was all over this. We'll have a little look at a video and see if it jogs our memory from this day last year, in fact. Do we have that video? It's a video of Gillian Duffy, who played a central role in the general election last year. I think she confronted Gordon Brown, if there's any memory. I'm not sure if we have that video. But anyway, let's have a look at a headline in the Daily Telegraph. Brown's nemesis confronts Clegg. Now, what happened was, it was 2 days before the general election last year, and Brown had a discussion with this constituent, what seemed like a very amicable discussion, until it turned out that his microphone had been left on, and he called her a bigot. And she was a Labour voter for her entire life, so it was a massive embarrassment to Brown, and some would say that it helped to bury him in the election. Now, she was seen confronting Clegg, who is the junior partner in the current coalition government, asking him, can you look me in the eyes and say that you're happy with all of these cuts? So it's funny how she was trotted out again just 1 year later. And in fact, if we have a look at The Guardian, they have one of those quotes as their headline, and it appears that Clegg's minders spotted 3 Labour activists waiting in the wings. So it looks like, this was the eve of the anniversary of her encounter with Gordon Brown, and she asked him why he went into coalition with the Conservatives and not Labour. So I would say perhaps Labour had some role in bringing her out for another little view. I'm wondering, do we have that video at all which showed the encounter last year? It might be worth playing if we do. But if we don't, we'll move on to other things. Perhaps not. Well, anyway,
no, we don't.
In other news, the Daily Beast, we'll move on to that, I suppose. Why 60% of young people support torture. Now, this is an exclusive for the Daily Beast, perhaps a bit more interesting than the exclusive in The Independent this morning. The American Red Cross conducted a survey. Almost 60% of American teenagers think that it is okay to waterboard and to conduct sleep deprivation on detainees. More than half also approved of killing captured enemies in the case where they had killed Americans. Now, it seems pretty shocking that people would be that much in favour of torture. According to their analysis, they think that perhaps George Bush bears some responsibility for his doctrine that, today's enemy is different from the ones we fought in the past. An American legal professor at Harvard thinks that it could be something to do with graphic media as well, destigmatizing torture. And ironically, there was a study recently at Brown University which said that torture is much less effective than traditional means of police questioning. Basically, it alienates the subject or produces unreliable information. Yes,
quite incredible figures.
Indeed.
60%. And Daily Beast, this is interesting.
Yes, William and Kate's royal wedding. Enough already. Now, this is the view of one guy writing for the Daily Beast. He says Americans have been subject to a month-long countdown, complete with surveys, souvenirs ranging from commemorative plates to condoms to a signature airsick bag. Didn't we fight a war? He says, so we wouldn't have to pay attention to this sort of thing. I presume they mean the War of Independence. So they say if you can't bring yourself to care about the pending nuptials, you're not alone. A CBS Vanity Fair study found that 65% of Americans have no interest. The world really doesn't care that much anymore who is the next British monarch, and they're really laying it on here in terms of actual influence. He says it's somewhere above the next king of Belgium, but below the Prime Minister of Canada. And I just want to show this at the very end because the Times of London don't seem to have haven't paid much attention to this. How to dress people for the royal wedding. They have a big thing this morning in their fashion pages about how the royal wedding guests should dress, including Samantha Cameron in tops and hats and all that sort of stuff. Philip Tracy hats. So.
I'm just looking at this. A skirt for £1,500.
Well, I suppose it's a big day, so she may as well splash out if she takes her advice.
Exactly. All right, James, thank you very much. That's James with the International Newspaper Review. Coming up...